Ani, Bojo, Kwe, greetings. It's Catherine from Moonstarlodge in Central Ontario. And I'm here with the reading for November 28th to December 4th and 2022. We're well into the 12th and final moon cycle, and this gives praise woman, as I spoke of last week. And by the way, welcome to anyone new visiting our channel for the first time. We are Indigenous elders in Central Ontario, and we've run Moonstarlodge for over 40 years, bringing Indigenous arts, spirituality, and education to the community. And if you're returning, welcome back. So, as this reading gets to the 4th, it's very close to the full moon, and the full moon is a big factor in today's reading. It will be even more so next week. I'm using a series of decks, the Wild Unknown Tarot by Kim Kranz, the Wild Unknown Animal Spirit by Kim Kranz, the Wild Unknown Alchemy by Kim Kranz, and finally the Wild Unknown Archetypes. I'm showing you the boxes that exist inside the outer display boxes because it's just easier to show these. They have more information. So we doused, and it's a 6-card reading of tarot, and then 6 of the oracles divided into 2 of each. This is a very deep reading, and I've had to sit with it for a few minutes before we started, simply because it speaks to me very much personally. So, I like to separate what's personal from the collective reading. But I think it's considering everything that's going on in the world as we approach the holiday season and connection with our families, it's an important, very important reading. So let's go to the cards, Brian. So here are the 6 tarot, and here are the 6 clarifiers. These 2 are the animal spirit, these 2 are the archetypes, and these 2 are the alchemy cards. So our reading starts with the Father of Cups, this black swan who represents the King of Cups. And this is the one that has the emotional responsibility for the larger group, has his stuff all together. It's about us in a place of emotional maturity. It's very easy in a society like ours to have intellectual maturity, physical maturity as we are aging, but not everybody has emotional maturity. So this Father of Cups is speaking to the fact that we are all growing into that space of emotional maturity as we face the end of this year. What's interesting is he's looking right at the 5 of Wands. Now this card came out reversed, and Brian and I had to do some dousing around that. This deck was not made to be read with reversals. I like to read with reversals, so I sat and asked Spirit to clarify. When it was reversed, it was showing a coming out of a sense of jousting and juggling and playful, in a sense playful, but it's combat, really. Jousting for position, juggling for position. So I've turned the card right side up, but it says we are coming out of a place of confused thoughts, conflict. It's conflict from within in this case. So the King of Cups is dealing with conflict from within, whether it's emotional only or not. That will depend on the individual. But when emotional clarity comes, quite often so does spiritual clarity. And with spiritual clarity comes intellectual clarity. So this is a very wonderful sign as we move through the week. And we have another bird totem here, and this is the Judgment card. So the clarity that this card is bringing, the moving out of a place of conflict, is very much about being ready to make a judgment about something. I'm sorry, I have to adjust my position here. This wheelchair and I are having issues. So, emotional clarity, overseeing, overarching, emotional maturity, bringing us out of a place of internal conflict so that we can make a judgment. And then with the clarity of the Son of Swords, which is the same as the Knight, we can move very swiftly, very precisely, pinpointing, taking action around something which is important for us this week. We have the Two of Cups, which is the, it's often thought of as lovers' relationship, but it is the balance of self also. So being at peace, and I suspect it's more the self than in other relationships because of this card. However, when we are in balance and at peace in our yin and yang, our animus and anima are in balance, it's much easier to be in balance with the people around us anyway. So it will very likely have an impact on our relationships. And what this brings us, you see all the cups cards here, is the Nine of Cups. And this is a completion card. So we end up by December 4th with everything we need. Everything's in place. All the good that we need and want is there. And it's glorious, actually. So what's clarifying us here? Well, we have Eagle. Eagle is part of my Dodemic family, Thunderbird family. And Eagle is about, we often think of Eagle as clarity, because it can fly closest to the Creator, but it is more than clarity. It is power. It is the ability to spot on deal with, and that's really supporting this card, the Son of Swords. This is saying it's way more than the Son of Swords. You've got the spiritual emissary of clarity and precision. And that's helpful because we've got fish. Fish, like Pisces, swims in the direction it's supposed to go in the river until it gets weary. This tells me there may be a sense in the week of a bit of weariness. So when it has to pull out of the general current, it goes into the eddies at the shore where it is no longer flowing and going. It is just resting. The moon is important here, and fish often function, and their cycles of life depend on the moon. Eagle, here we have the sun, so it's balancing light and dark, balancing the clarity and the swift movement forward with recognizing when we are weary and when we have to go with intuition rather than intellect. And that's interesting that we go from fish to the river. The river is such an important part of ceremony for every culture in the world. As we're coming up to this final full moon in the next week, we need to be preparing this week. The river is the flow of life in a general sense, but it is the emotional flow. We are dealing with karmic issues here. So when we don't push the river, when we stay with the river, when we vision, We see our reflection. Tears fall into the river. So many cultures do rituals by the river. I'm not suggesting you do your winter rituals by the river in terms of being in it, but rather it would be wonderful to actually go to the water, and we call it nibby, and make a ritual for what we want for next year by giving praise with this year. So recognize that you are in the flow and in the way of right relationship. The next card cracked me up. I actually had to have Brian douse for this one. It's a cat with a party hat. It's the comic. The cosmic comic is the relief for this reading this week. I'm often cat in a party hat, and that's kind of my job sometimes. It's about saying, let's relax, let's just go with the flow, let's lighten up, let's find the humor in situations instead of getting bogged down with anxiety or trying to course correct intellectually. Sometimes we have to step back, relax, binge on Netflix or something, or just communicate with our friends and our others to see the rainbow, to see the good in a situation, and to release the wound up, pent up negative energy that may be associated with fear and anxiety. So these are the archetypes. Now the alchemy. We have resin, and this resin art piece is actually the ancient whale, the eye of the ancient whale in resin. This alchemy card is mortifactio, or mortifaction. So these are very deep. Think of whales going very deep. Resin can reflect two sets of situations here. The situation to be careful of is somebody who is outside of us, not ourselves, trying to hold perfection for another, and in so makes it as if they are stuck in resin. They're trying to make perfection out of a situation, and that can hold us back. But it also represents, if you think of the ancient pine resin and amber, it can hold something beautiful and perfect. It's a reminder of a time and a way of life perhaps, or a situational thing. So it's how we use the resin. And the resin is alchemy in this case. We are capturing something that is beautiful about where we're going in all of this. And there is a tremendous amount of beauty in this reading. The mortifactio is a concept in alchemy where things have to go underground. It's like the leaves that have just recently fallen off the trees. They have to go to the ground. They have to disintegrate. They have to go into the dark of the earth under the snow for something new to be born. So this tells me very much that the timeline of this reading, what we're doing this week of November 28th to December 4th, has its growth when the earth is clear of detritus. So it is at the end of winter. So once again, we're talking about a spring evolution. So the impact isn't just week long. It isn't just 1 week. We are creating things, very deep things, with a very great deal of power. There's a lot of sense of maturity here, and a lot of sense of karmic resolution. All right, Brian, you can flip the camera. So I hope that's helpful. I always post pictures of the decks I use because people will write and ask me, and it just saves answering a lot of questions that way. But I also post a picture of the reading, the actual layout of cards, so that people can study it and perhaps take a screenshot if they need to, if the reading is speaking to them, that is. I can't imagine there are very, very many people, if you're really thoughtful about it, that this reading wouldn't speak to. It's not explosive. It is not scary. It's not a shaking up of anything. This is manifestation in its purest form. And so the concept of giving praise for that is very profound. Anyway, I hope if you like this reading that you give us a thumbs up. That always helps. If you haven't already yet, please subscribe, because these readings are sequential. And I do 2 little mini readings on Instagram, which end up on Facebook, on both my personal page and the Moonstarlodge page there, because we're Moonstarlodge everywhere on the socials. However, the little mini readings just add a little punch of extra information as it comes up during the week. We are co-creators with the universe. We are manifestors. So if Spirit needs to tweak the information from this reading that we've just had by adding in a few extra chapters, then that's how that manifests on Instagram. Anyway, if you feel so inclined, send me a coffee. You can do that on PayPal to Moonstarlodge. You can go through the website, but especially if you look in the listing here below the reading on YouTube, you will find Kofi, or Coffee, I guess it is. I remember Kofi Kingston, the wrestler, so I mix it up sometimes. But it's Coffee, spelled K-O-F-I. And that's the tier program that we're going to be using for the winter as we move toward classes. And we are going to be open this weekend, this month, by appointment for visits if people want to come. The studio has been set back up temporarily as we prepare to film items to go in the store on our website. So if you need anything for the holidays or sacred and ceremonial supplies, we've got them here. Just give us a shout. Anyway, miigwech, aho.